ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमो। विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे राम। Okay, I am saying something that if I switch off my video, then maybe audio will be better. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay, Prabhuji, you can try.
Yeah. So let's see how it goes now. We are on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, shloka number 23-35. Synopsis of last class. Last section, we were seeing some paradoxes. What is a paradox? Paradox is an apparent contradiction. It's not a contradiction. It looks like a contradiction. And there were some descriptions of the Supreme Lord here. One description was he is far as well as he is close. He is the source of all senses of everyone, but he does not have any material senses. Anybody else remembers any other contradiction that we discussed?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. He is both outside and inside. Everything.
And still people cannot see him. Okay,
he is divided and undivided.
Yes, very nice.
Prabhuji, you also said he's unattached, but he's the maintainer of all living entities.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. And then based on those paradoxes, we drew some conclusions about the Supreme Lord. Anybody remembers any of these conclusions? We discussed how these are the apparent contradictions that we can see.
Prabhuji, you said it is not possible to understand the Supreme Lord based on the logic.
Yeah,
and we should prefer to be humble when told about this.
And then only in a humble state of mind can we learn about the Supreme Lord from the Supreme Lord. Thank you. Okay, then we discussed how material nature is also an eternal principle, although its manifestations are temporary. Sometimes the material nature is visible, sometimes it is not visible. But as a principle, it is eternal. And then we discussed about how the living entity is the cause of his own suffering. Many times in Hindi cinema, they will show a person is accusing God, he goes to a temple, there could be a deity there, and he will say, why did you create so many problems in my life? The last time we were seeing how every thought that we have is based on our conception. We saw the photo of one freedom fighter. If you are in the mood of an Indian, then that freedom fighter is a nice person. But if you are on the opposite side, then you will say, oh, this freedom fighter is a traitor, is going against the government of the country. So it all depends on the conception. That's why we discussed how actually destiny is not the cause of our suffering. Time factor is not the cause of our suffering. Nobody else is the cause of our suffering, actually. The cause of our suffering is the living entity himself. It all depends on how we look at life. It all depends on what we feel is important and what we feel is not important. For the farmers, the monsoon season is a cause of his happiness. For people who stay in Bombay, monsoon is a cause of suffering. Why so? Because for Bombayites, monsoon is basically an obstruction in their reaching their office on time or in the evening reaching their home on time. Whereas for the farmers, this is the only way that they will survive when water comes, when monsoon comes. So it all depends on your conception. And then we discussed in the last part that the living entity of experiences various emotions based on its association of different modes of nature. Anybody remembers the example that we saw here? We saw that those house of mirrors, now you are facing different mirrors and your shape changes completely. Similarly, depending on our association, if you associate with Rajogun, then your emotions are different. If you associate with Tamogun, then your emotions are different. If your association is with the Sattvagun, then your emotions are different. In this way, this is what we discussed last time. We'll go ahead. This is Bhagavad Gita 13.23, very important shloka. Upadrashta anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara parmatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purushah parah. Yet in this body, there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter and who is known as the Super Soul. So, sometimes in a factory, there are workers and there are people who are busy in that factory and they are directly involved. But there could be people who own that factory and they basically know everything that is happening in that factory, but they are not directly involved. So sometimes the supervisor is directly involved, but the owner of the factory is not directly involved. Although, if you ask him, he knows everything that is happening in the factory. What is the raw material? What is the stock of supplies? Is everything going on properly and all that? Similarly, here Lord Krishna is saying that the Paramatma is the overseer, Upadrashta. He is not getting involved in the workings of material nature in the material world, but that is how he oversees everything. And sometimes we feel that based on the reactions of certain people in our life, we feel energetic or we feel that yes, I should do something. But unless the Supreme Lord permits, nothing in this world can happen. So beyond all the permissions, beyond all the approvals that we receive from people of this world, actually the most important is the permission or the approval from the Supreme Lord. And unless the Supreme Lord approves something, it will not work out, it will not happen. Now, does it mean that if nothing happens by the permission of the Supreme Lord, then all the wrong things also happen by the permission of the Supreme Lord? And if wrong things happen by the permission of the Supreme Lord, then why the Supreme Lord allows it? There are two reasons. One is that there are people in this world who want to do wrong things and they are very insistent on doing wrong things. So how does the Supreme Lord not allow it? The Supreme Lord himself, when he comes to this world, he sets a very high example by his own behavior. He also sets a very good example through the behavior of his devotees. When he comes, he leaves behind instructions. So through all this, he is always trying to give a very nice example of what is right, what is to be done, and what is to be avoided. But even in spite of so much education and so many instructions and so many examples, there is always somebody who says, I am going to be the one who's going to break the rules. For example, 1992, there was a big financial scam in the country. And at one point of time, there was this one name of Harshad Mehta, which was very famous. So what did he do? He basically is a stockbroker and he knows the rules. But without letting people know, he broke certain rules. And that is how, manipulating the market, he became very rich. And of course, then his scam was caught and he was put behind the bars. So his end was not a very good end. He died in a jail. But at least for some years, he was ruling. So now think about it. Any scamster, any person who wants to do a scam, maybe a financial scam, it may be a political scam, it could be a sports related scam. That person feels, I know how to break rules without being caught. Sometimes it does happen. People have made scams and they were not caught. The only problem is the previous quality, that the Supreme Lord is the overseer. The Supreme Lord is Upadrashta. It means the Supreme Lord is watching everything, but as mentioned on the screen, he is not directly involved. So sometimes people, when they do wrong, they feel nobody watched, nobody came to know. किसी को पता ही नहीं मैंने क्या किया. But this is the shloka where it is mentioned that no, Lord Krishna is watching everything, although he does not get involved. So even if somebody does something wrong, after knowing a good example, after hearing from the scriptures, Krishna is watching everything, although he does not put his hands into it and he is not directly involved in it. And that's why sometimes when somebody is really, really adamant on doing wrong, then just to give him an experience of what he's getting into, because the instruction was always there, the example of good behavior was always there, but still this person wants to do wrong. So then he should get a taste of what he's doing wrong. So the Supreme Lord sometimes allows, gives an approval. He is a permitter, Anumanta. And then in this shloka, Krishna is saying, Bharta. Bharta means Krishna is the feeder of everyone. Who is feeding us? Is the supermarket feeding us? No, because the supermarket gets its grains from the farmer. Is the farmer feeding us? No, because he is only sowing the seeds. And those seeds are getting multiplied based on the sun provided by God, water provided by God, clouds provided by God, the soil is provided by God. And the most interesting thing is, the seeds are also provided by God. So who's feeding us? The Supreme Lord is feeding us. And the fourth quality that is mentioned is Bhokta. Bhokta means enjoyer. So as per the shloka, these are the qualities of the Supreme Lord. He is a overseer, he is a permitter, he is the one who's feeding everyone, and he is also the enjoyer. So what does this word enjoyer mean? When it is said that Lord Krishna is a supreme enjoyer, what does it exactly mean? Let's consider a very advanced machine. It's a very complicated machine. There are many parts and they all interact with each other to get the things done. Now, surely for this advanced machine, there will be many, many small parts of that machine. So one such complicated advanced machine, the screen we can see many different parts. So you can see some spindles, some screws, some nuts, some bolts, and there are a lot of things that are arranged there. And all these parts, when they come together, they function in the form of an advanced machine. So from this advanced machine, what if a single screw falls off? As the machine is playing, as the machine is working, a single screw falls off from the machine. What is the usual fate of such a screw? Would anybody like to speak?
Prabhuji, the screw will fall off and disappear, get lost somewhere.
Lost somewhere,
That
right?
will be a,
And
that will
let's
be a
say
big
you
problem.
come across, yeah, and if you come across that screw, then what do?
You'll want to pick it up and put it back because you need the
Yes.
screw in place.
Yes. So it's very interesting that although it's a very super complicated machine and there are so many screws and there are so many nuts and bolts and this and that, but every screw is very important because that screw fits into a particular place. And if the screw is out of the machine, then the machine somewhere sometimes will give some problems. But that screw, if it falls off, and usually it gets lost because it's a small little screw and the machine is a big machine. So that screw usually gets lost and loses its value because a screw on the floor is of no use. But the screw, when it is attached to that machine at a certain place, then it has a lot of value. And this is the most interesting thing, that the living entity, the spirit soul, has a lot of value when it serves the Supreme Lord. Just like this screw has a lot of value when it serves the machine. But as soon as it falls off from the machine, then it gets lost. Similarly, the living entity, when it gets separated from the Supreme Lord, then it is lost. So, what is the meaning of the word enjoyer? Enjoyer means this machine takes seva from so many screws and so many nuts and so many bolts. This machine is a dead object in this world. But the Supreme Lord is not a dead object, and the Supreme Lord can take services from all of us. Some of us will sing some very beautiful melody for him. Some of us can play musical instrument for him. Some of us can offer him some cooked items for eating. Some of us can fan him if it is getting too hot. Some of us can make very beautiful looking clothes for him, and so on. So because the Supreme Lord is infinite, there are infinite services waiting for him. And this is the most interesting thing about God, that actually, just like an advanced machine, it appears to be independent of all the screws. But if one or two screws fall off, then there is some noise that is created in the machine. The operator starts looking for the screws on the floor. Similarly, the Supreme Lord actually is completely independent of all of us. He does not need all of us. But if you ask him, and he says, "Oh, I have been missing you. The seva that you used to do in the spiritual world, I really miss that seva that you used to do in the spiritual world." And it is only for reclaiming all of us that the Supreme Lord comes again and again into the material. So there is one beautiful story in the Srimad Bhagavatam where there is this King Ambarish, and King Ambarish is one time unnecessarily attacked by Durvasa Rishi. It's a very small fault which is perceived by Durvasa Rishi, and Durvasa Rishi gives him the death sentence. And as soon as he wants to kill Ambarish Maharaj, Sudarshan Chakra comes automatically and chases Durvasa Rishi to kill him. So now Durvasa Rishi goes to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma says, "I cannot save you because the Sudarshan Chakra is beyond me." Then Durvasa Rishi goes to Lord Shiva and requests him to save him. But Lord Shiva says, "I cannot save you." And then Durvasa Rishi goes to Lord Narayan. And when he goes to Lord Narayan, the first words that he says, Durvasa Rishi requests him, "Please save me from the Sudarshan Chakra of yours." Then Lord Narayan says, "Aham bhakta paradhino hi aswatantra iva dvija sadhubir grasta hridaya bhaktair bhakta janapriya." So Lord Narayan, he tells Durvasa Rishi, the whole world feels that I am independent. But he says, "Aham bhakta paradhina." Actually, I am dependent on my devotees. And it is almost as if I am not an independent person. He aswatantra iva dvija. Aswatantra means the opposite of swatantra, opposite of freedom. So he says, I am bound. I am bound by the love of my devotees. Sadhubir grasta hridaya. Because my devotees, they actually capture my heart. And he says, Bhaktair bhakta janapriya. What to speak of my devotees? Actually, I am bound by the devotees of my devotees. So what he says is, not only those who love me are dear to me, but if my devotee loves me, and there is somebody who loves my devotee, although he may not love me directly, but just the fact that he loves my devotee is good enough for me to grant my special mercy to the devotee of my devotee. And that is how Lord Narayan finishes off that conversation with Durvasa Rishi. So that's why it feels that the machine is independent of the screw. But no, as soon as one screw falls off, the machine starts making noise. Similarly, it seems as if God is not dependent on so many living entities. As long as we are non-devotees, it is true. till the time we are not devotees, actually our presence and our absence does not matter to Krishna. But as soon as we become devotees or we become devotees of devotees, then our presence and our absence matters a lot to Krishna. And that is why, what is the meaning of the word enjoyer? The meaning of the word enjoyer is he wants to enjoy seva from all of us. He wants to enjoy seva from the parrot. He wants to enjoy seva from the peacock. He wants to enjoy seva from the cows. And he wants to enjoy seva from all the human beings. And so on. So that is the meaning of the word enjoy. We'll go ahead. This is 13.24. Ya evam vetti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha sarvatha vartamanopi na sa bhuyo bhijayate. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, a living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So, sometimes we could feel that what is the need for so much philosophy? Why can't we just discuss so many stories that are there connected to Krishna, how Krishna was stealing butter and how Krishna was making fun of the gopis and like that. But here Lord Krishna himself is saying, if you understand this philosophy concerning material nature, living entity and interaction. So what is material nature? Material nature is the environment in which we are operating. What is the living entity? The living entity is the tiny Jivatma who has come to this world, wanting to escape relationship with the Supreme Lord, wanting to enjoy on his own. That's why he needs a different world. Just like, for example, there is a kitchen at home, and sometimes there is a small girl at home, and this girl says, Mama, I want my own kitchen. Mama says, but I don't know whether you'll be able to cook properly or not. He says, Mama, I want my own kitchen. Then there is that baby kitchen. There is a small cylinder, or there is some small stove, and there is a small frying pan, there is a small vessel, there is small spoons and all that. And the kids sometimes play with that small kitchen. Actually, it's not a kitchen also because it does not have any source of energy. Nothing gets cooked in the kids' kitchen. But still, the only advantage is the kids feel happy that apart from my mother's kitchen, I have my own kitchen. That is the only benefit. Similarly, the living entity also, when they look at Krishna and they see that Krishna is enjoying in so many ways, when the living entity feels, I don't know how much I will be successful, but at least one thing is very clear. I want to enjoy on my own. That's why the living entity comes to this world. And the interaction of the modes of nature is when the living entity in material nature is influenced by the Sattva Guna, is influenced by the Rajo Guna, is influenced by the Tamo Guna. More of these modes of nature is going to come in the 14th chapter. So in 14th chapter, we'll discuss more about it. But Krishna is saying that knowing the philosophy, we don't take birth here again. So now is a series of questions that I'm going to put on the screen, and it will be nice if some of you can answer this. So why is the living entity suffering? Any replies from all of you?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Because of the desires and expectations.
Yes, very nice. So, he has desires from the wrong people, wrong places, and expectations from the wrong people and wrong places. So, because of his misconception, basically, he does not understand what is right and what is wrong. So, why are his conceptions wrong? Anybody else?
For happiness.
Because we want to enjoy independently of Krishna.
Okay, nice answer. Nice answer. But why does he want to enjoy independently? You are right. What could be the reason of his desire to enjoy independently?
Turning away from the Lord.
Yes, turning away from the Lord and having some kind of conviction. Even if I turn away from the Lord, I can enjoy. Just like I have mentioned, when the small kids create a second kitchen at home, actually there is no use. So, because of his lack of proper authentic knowledge, he does not understand मराठीमध्ये काय म्हणतात छोट्या किचनला? कोणी सांगेल मला?
भातुकली.
हा, भातुकली. मग जेव्हा लहान मुली घरी भातुकली खेळतात ना, त्याच्यामध्ये पोहे पण नाही बनत, त्याच्यात भात पण नाही बनत, डाळ पण नाही, आमटी नाही, काहीच नाही बनत. त्याच्यामध्ये फक्त त्या लहान मुलीला समाधान मिळतं की मी माझा काहीतरी भातुकली रचली. अँड दॅट इज व्हॉट द लिव्हिंग एंटिटी इज डुईंग. ऍक्च्युली भातुकली खेळल्यानंतर आफ्टर द स्मॉल किड्स क्रिएट दॅट स्मॉल किचन and after cooking something for 2 hours, when they get hungry, then they look at their mother and say, आई काहीतरी खायला बनवलंय का? And if the mother says, what about your bhatukli? There must be something, right? They say, no, 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 no. Actually, I did bhatukli, but there is no bhat there. So can you get me some real rice and can you give me some food? So the conceptions of the living entity are wrong because lack of proper authentic knowledge. So now the question is, where is this knowledge available?
This knowledge is available
In the scriptures.
Yes, very nice. Thank you. So, with the source of this world, that is the Supreme Lord, He has given us His scriptures. Very nice. And those who are close to Him, because the Supreme Lord will reveal that knowledge to those who are close to Him. And then, what will be the effect of gaining this knowledge? Anybody?
One's consciousness will rise,
Yes, very
and,
nice.
and that is how he can understand properly. And
Perfect.
as once understanding is there, it will followed by
Yes.
a right action.
Yes. So basically, his misconceptions will be destroyed. He will get freedom from suffering. He will get freedom from false attachments. And not only that, he will also get freedom from this world of suffering and false attachment. So as long as we are in this world, there is always potentially a danger. What is a danger? This way or that way, this disease or that financial problem, or somebody cheats us in our relationship, there is always some suffering, is it not? If today 2021 is a year of financial suffering, then 2022 you take care of your finances. But 2022 is not a year of financial suffering. 2022 becomes a year of health suffering. Then you say, oh, I need to become serious about my health. Now I will exercise regularly. Now I'll do yoga properly. Now I'll also change my food habits. But then 2023, it's a relationship suffering problem. So this way or that way, there is somehow suffering that comes to our way. So we can get freedom from suffering not only in a temporary way, but we can get freedom from this world of suffering. And we can get freedom from this world of false attachment. That's very important. So that is the most important part of this knowledge. And that is why Krishna mentioned, somebody who understands this philosophy of the living entity, material nature, and the three modes of material nature will not have to take birth again. Just think about this. Just by understanding the philosophy of Lord Krishna mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, you don't have to take birth again. This is the power of this knowledge. So, knowledge will set you free from suffering and also from the source of that. Just hold on, I need to mute somebody. Okay, done. So this is the special quality of spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge sets you free from sufferings. Till the time you are there in this world, we have some time, and spiritual knowledge will also set us free from the source of the suffering, that is our stay in this world. 13.25. ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मनः अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन च परे. Some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So perception of super soul, perception of Paramatma happens by meditation, by cultivation of knowledge, and by selfless work. Some people, they get advanced in spiritual life by their deep meditation, yoga abhyas. And some people, by their knowledge, by the knowledge they can see in this world how the Supreme Lord is involved, at the same time not attached. And some people, they are so selfless in their work, they are so pure that the Supreme Lord reveals their heart what is right and is wrong. 13.26. Now, other than these three qualities, other than these three methods, there is a fourth method also. How many of you feel that you can do very deep meditation? Is there anybody, if you feel you can do deep meditation, you can unmute and say, yes, yes, I feel like that. Okay. Is there anybody who feels that I can get all the knowledge in this world? If you feel like that, then you can raise your hand. Or if you, any one of you feels that I can do 108% selfless work. I never do any selfish work. Whatever I do is always selfless. Is there anybody like that? So in this shloka, 13.25, Krishna has mentioned three methods, but all these three methods are actually very difficult for all of us. So then, for all of us ordinary people, what is the way out? Let's see the next shloka, 13.26. Anne त्वेम जानन्तः श्रुत्वा नेभ्यः उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणः. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So if you are not a good meditator, if you are not a selfless worker, and if you are not a big scholar, this is something that will help us. That Krishna is saying, are you attached to the process of hearing from authorities, from the right people? If you are, then you can also get free from the cycle of birth and death just by that attachment to hearing. So if knowledge sets us free, how will we receive that knowledge? It is not from where will we receive that knowledge, it is how will we receive that knowledge. Any ideas? How will we receive spiritual knowledge?
Through devotional
Prabhuji,
service.
Yes,
by
thank
attending
you.
Hare
satsang,
Krishna.
By
Attending satsang,
association with
Bona,
devotees.
association with
bona
devotees,
fide spiritual masters.
from bona fide spiritual masters. So from proper personalities,
Yeah.
when we do satsang, means you hear from them. Satsang does not mean just go and sit close to them, but hear from them. You ask questions, and when you ask questions, then you get clarifications, and that is how you receive that knowledge. So there are 5 knowledge acquiring senses: the tongue, the eyes, the nose, the skin, and the ears. This is basically how we have acquired all knowledge in this world. Whatever we know is by these 5 senses. Now, very interesting thing. The tongue, when it says, oh, this dish is so tasty, when you taste something. Let's imagine one of you, I offer you something to eat, and you say, wow, this gajar ka halwa is so very tasty, Prabhuji. What is the next thing that you will speak? Anybody think about it? When I offer you a very nice gajar ka halwa, and you say, wow, this is so nice. What is the next thing that you speak?
Prabhuji,
Recipe.
can I have some more?
Ah, yes. So sometimes you ask this, how, can you have some more? And sometimes you say, who made this dish? And how do you make this dish? So just see, although the tongue is sufficient to give us the knowledge about the taste of the dish, but the tongue is not sufficient to give us knowledge about how to make the dish or who made the dish. So the tongue will give you information about the taste of the dish, the gajar ka halwa, but immediately the ears are required to get further knowledge how to make it, how to make this dish so tasty. Yes, and sometimes the eyes are also sufficient to get knowledge. And suppose there is a painting on the screen. Oh, Prabhuji, this painting is so beautiful. And as soon as you say that, what is the next sentence that you speak?
Who has painted this?
Who painted it?
Yeah, just see how it's very interesting. The eyes will give us knowledge about the painting, but eyes cannot give us knowledge about who painted and how do you mix colors in such an amazing manner. Is it not? Similarly, if there is a nice perfume that is inhaled and the nose tells us, oh, this is the perfume, it is a rose flavor, it is a vanilla flavor, whatever. Yes. So the nose will give us the information about the perfume. But what is the next sentence that we speak as soon as we come across a very amazing perfume?
What is the perfume? What's the name?
Yeah, what's the name?
Where
Or
did you
where
get it?
Ah, ye kidhar milta hai? And then sometimes we ask, what is the cost of this perfume? It is so nice. Is it too costly? I would also like to get it. So this is how it is. And sometimes there is something very soft, soft, soft for the pleasure of the skin, the touch sensation. And you touch a soft toy. Soft toy is such a nice pleasure. And what is the next sentence that you speak when you touch a soft toy?
But it is made of.
What is it made of? Or, oh, this is a panda that is made. Is an elephant also available? And which shop is this available? So just see, my dear friends, that the tongue is very amazing and it gives us information about the taste of a dish. The eyes are amazing. The eyes give us the sight knowledge. The nose gives us scent, olfactory knowledge. And the skin gives us touch knowledge. But all this knowledge is incomplete without the ears. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing that unless our ears cooperate with us and we use our ears, actually our knowledge is not complete, even of the tongue, even of the eyes, even of the nose, and even of the skin. Can you imagine how important are our ears to get knowledge? In fact, we started speaking because of our ears. Those who don't have proper ears, they don't hear also and they cannot speak also, because whatever you speak is based on whatever you hear. And try speaking with your ears closed. Now, what will happen is that sound will go to your ears through your inner mouth, from your inside of your face. But sometimes you are giving a speech and you cannot hear yourself. It becomes very uncomfortable to speak when you cannot hear yourself. So any one of you, if you have participated in some drama and on the stage you are performing in front of a crowd of 500, 600 people, then it's very interesting that they put some speakers in the reverse direction for the performers of the drama. There are a lot of speakers for the audience, but there are one or two speakers on the stage kept in the reverse direction because the people who are performing in the drama should hear their own voice. Otherwise, they feel that maybe our voice is not available to the audience and they become a little bit disturbed in their acting. It's very important for you to hear your voice. So voice is very important. When you're playing karate, you need to make a sound, and that is how you put force into your hands and all that. And even for all this knowledge of the other four Gyanendriya, the ears are very important. And that's why Krishna in this shloka 13.26 use this word. This word is straight from Krishna's shloka. Shruti Parayan. So some of us may be Vishnu Parayan. Vishnu Parayan means they are servants of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. They are surrendered to Lord Vishnu. So we want to become Vishnu Parayan. We want to become Hari Parayan. We want to become Adhyatma Parayan. But if you ask Krishna, then Krishna says, before you become Hari Parayan, before you become Krishna Parayan, first you become Shruti Parayan. And actually the word Shruti Parayan, literally it means those who are surrendered to the process of hearing. So as soon as there is an opportunity to hear from some proper person, we should become encouraged, we should become enthusiastic and Nothing is as important as getting an opportunity to hear about Krishna from the right person. It's very rare because there are a lot of people who speak about Krishna, but many of them are just speaking their whims. They don't even quote from the Bhagavad Gita. There are volumes and volumes of books about Krishna without any reference to the knowledge that he is speaking. So when some authentic person speaks to us about Krishna, can you imagine how fortunate we are? And that's why Krishna is using the word Shruti Paraya. It's a very interesting and very amazing word. So this is what Krishna is saying. Just by the simple activity of becoming Shruti Paraya, just by being attached to the process of hearing about Krishna from the proper people, we can cross over the cycle of birth and death. We need not go to the Himalayas. We need not stand on one leg. We need not eat just the fruits and roots of the forest. All we have to do is we have to develop a hankering for hearing more and more and more and more about Krishna. 13.27. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam sthavar jangamam kshetra kshetra ya sanyoga tadvidhi bharatarshava. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activity and the knower of the field. What is the field of activity? Anybody remembers from the beginning of this chapter, 13.1, 13.2? Kshetra, anybody knows what is the meaning of the word Kshetra? Kshetra was the body, and the knower of the body was the spirit soul. So Krishna is saying everything we see around is actually a combination of dead matter and living spirit soul. Anything that you see on the outside, even our own body, is dead matter outside, and inside there is a living spirit soul. So this is what Krishna is telling us. 13.28. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashatya swa vinashantam yaha pashyati sapashyati. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, he actually sees. So we have to understand the soul cannot be killed. And the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul, the Paramatma, he can also never be killed or he can never be destroyed. So as soon as you understand life like this, then you cross over all fear. Majority fear that we have in this world is the fear of losing our safety, the fear of losing our protection, the fear of getting damaged. And that's why as soon as we understand the soul cannot be destroyed, the Supreme Lord cannot be harmed, then that person actually sees. A similar words, samam pashyan iha sarvatra samavistitam ishwaram na hinastyatman atmanam tato yati param gatim. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus, he approaches the transcendental destination. So not only the super soul cannot be destroyed, but is equally present in every living being. Samam pashyan iha sarvatra. So how is it that if you know the Supreme Lord is in everyone's heart, you do not degrade yourself by your mind? Would anybody like to offer any explanation?
Prabhuji, can you please repeat the question? I didn't get it.
Yeah. By knowing that the Supreme Lord is equally present everywhere, in every living being, by knowing this fact, how will I prevent my degradation in my mind? What is the connection between knowing this and preventing degradation in my mind?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. When one understands that he is a part and parcel of the Lord, then he won't degrade himself.
Yes, that's one way of looking at it. What else could be there?
He won't hate anyone or envy anyone?
Yeah, very
Envy,
nice.
everything. Yeah.
Very nice. So when you see that the Supreme Lord is present in this person, how will you hate that person? Or how will you harm that person? And when we don't want to hate anybody, we don't want to harm anybody, we don't degrade ourselves. So we don't have negative attitude towards anyone. Why? Because we know in everyone's heart the Supreme Lord is there, and the Supreme Lord will guide that person on the right track. So we do the needful, but without malice in the heart, without hatred in the heart. We take care of the situation, but without any hatred in the heart. So it's very interesting that Krishna is the one who's asking Arjun to fight. And Arjun is the one who's saying, I won't fight. But Krishna says, no, no, you have to fight, you have to fight. But how will you fight? Not without hatred. You fight, you do your duty, you fight to protect the people, but you don't have any hatred for the person whom you are fighting. That is the whole art of working in the world. So if fighting can be done without hatred, can we do our jobs without hatred? Can we do our business without hatred? Can we take care of our duties without hatred? Yes. So this is the whole point, that you see the presence of God, and that's why you lose all negativity for anybody. And you just take care of the situation in the best possible.
Can I put
Go
it
ahead.
little different way, Prabhuji?
Yeah, yeah. You have
It is, I believe, it is, although we all are aware that yes, we are a part and parcel of the supreme power, even then when we seize through our eyes, we tend to forget what is there in me. Rather, I focus on the external thing or environment, and I focus there. That is how that gets reflected to the core of my mind, and accordingly hatred or love generates. Whereas I forget, at the same time, I forget that I am a part and parcel of the supreme power.
yes. So when
That
you
is what my
forget
thought.
it, yeah, when you forget, then you start having all these negative qualities. But when
True.
you remember that God exists everywhere, and
So
God is
I feel this sense organ. Suppose that a blind person, perhaps he will be better equipped to appreciate the contribution of the Lord or existence of the Lord himself.
if he has the knowledge that is there in the Gita, yes. But without knowledge in the Gita, if he does not accept that the existence of God is everywhere, he may be blind, he may not be blind. But does he accept the existence of the Lord?
See, I accept, but it is not there throughout every moment, every fraction of the second. That is not reflected in my behavior because I have not been able to appreciate it, because I see something, and we know you must be able, you will be able to appreciate that when we see something else that allures us more, and we lose focus on our concentration on myself, ourselves. That is how it happens. It is difficult situation to regulate, control ourselves.
That is why we need education.
True,
And all
true.
these Gita classes that we are attending is to overcome that weakness of ours. That how to not get allured by the externals, but always focus on the essence. That is the whole thing that we are learning.
Right. Thank you.
By
Thank you.
constantly reminding ourselves, each other, when we say, no, 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 in this situation, let me see what is Krishna trying to teach me, rather than getting angry at the situation. That's the point.
Thank you.
Okay, great. 13.30. प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. So whatever is happening in this world is basically based on our desires, our hatred, our love, and this and that. And all that is very temporary, and all that is very material. Today we hate somebody, and tomorrow that person does something good for us, and we start loving that person. And today we love somebody, and that person unfortunately tomorrow speaks ill about us, and we start hating that person. So actually our love is also temporary, and our hatred is also temporary, because it is all based on the temporary body and the mind. But when we love somebody, based on his being a child of Krishna or her being a child of Krishna, that this living entity is a child of Krishna, then our love goes at a much deeper level. It is no longer based on the looks of the person. It is no longer based on the talking of the person. It is no longer based on the sweet voice of that person. It is based on this quality that whatever said and done, this person is a child of Krishna. And that is why my love for this person is regardless of the looks, regardless of the voice, regardless of the mood and the behavior of that person. It's a very high stage. It's a very high stage. But nevertheless, Krishna as our father is telling us of that high stage. Yada bhuta prithak bhavam ekastham anupashyati tat eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Brahma sampadyate tada, that time. So basically, not as our participant was saying 2 minutes back, we should not get distracted by the external appearance of a person, but we should understand that it is God's energy that is pervading everywhere. And that is how slowly you come out of all this temporariness of life. Otherwise, every second is an opportunity to get angry, and every second is an opportunity to get super happy on somebody. Anybody says something good to you, you become happy. Anybody says something irritable to you, you become angry. So over a period of time, we have to cross beyond the happiness and the distress, which is fleeting, which is so temporary. And we have to go beyond it and see how the Supreme Lord is basically acting in all situations. Anaditvat nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyayah sharirasthopi kaunteya na karoti na lipyate. Those with the vision of eternity, they are not thinking of 2021. They are not lamenting about 2020, and they are not dreaming about 2022. They are thinking about eternity. They can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body of Arjun, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So the Supreme Lord is telling that the spirit soul is also transcendental. So the spirit soul is also eternal. The spirit soul in its pure state is also beyond the modes of nature, and that's why it can never get entangled. But all of us know we get entangled. You know what it means? It means we are not on the platform of the spirit soul right now. But at least we have begun our journey, and slowly, the more we deepen our understanding of the fact that we are not these bodies, we are spirit soul, more we will not be disturbed by the situations of this world. So this is one way you can test yourself whether you are advanced in spiritual knowledge. One very immediate effect of your advancement in spiritual knowledge is you don't get affected by the ever-changing situations of this world. Yatha sarvagatam saukshmyad akasham nopalipyate sarvatravasthito dehe tathatma nopalipyate. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. So you look at the sky in the sky. Up above, there is a sky. There are so many clouds and there are so many birds and this and that, but the sky always remains unaffected. Sometimes it is hot, sometimes it is cold, sometimes it is full of clouds, sometimes it is dusty, sometimes it is windy, but the sky does not get affected. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, although situated in that body. So we take care of the body, but we don't get attached to the body. We do whatever is necessary to keep the body fit, but we do not spend all our 24 hours trying to keep body comfortable, because we know no matter what you do for the body is always going to complain. So sometimes there is a sandstorm, and this is a sandstorm in an African situation. and this huge sandstorm. So there is so much dust particles and there is so much sand particles in the wind. But the wind is simply carrying the dust particles. The wind does not become dusty. The wind is carrying the dust particles. There is a difference. Similarly, when we spray a perfume, then microscopically we can see that actually the scent, the liquid is being sprayed. And there are these small particles that are sprayed and they are carried by the air. That is how we can inhale the fragrance. But the wind itself does not become fragrant. The wind carries the fragrant particle. And sometimes there is foul odor. So what is foul odor? There are certain gases, there are certain substances, there are certain particles. They are of foul odor and the wind carries those particles. So sometimes the wind carries sand, sometimes the wind carries dust, sometimes the wind carries perfume particles, and sometimes the wind carries the foul odor particles. And that is how we say that the air is smelling bad. But actually, the wind is always separate from the particles that it carries. And similarly, we also, the more we are situated in spiritual knowledge, we do what is necessary, but we never become affected. The wind never changes itself in any interaction. It just carries anything that it comes in contact with. And similarly, we will have many interactions in this life with good people, bad people, but we don't change and we stick to the prescription given by Lord Krishna in the Gita. Yatha prakashyatya ekah kritsnam lokam imam ravihi kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam prakashayati bharata. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all the universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So one sun lights up the entire universe. That is the power of the sun. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is saying, one spirit soul situated in the heart region of the body has power and has consciousness all over the body. The entire body is illuminated by consciousness, energizes the body just by being situated in a small place. And whether it is an ant, whether it is a huge elephant, whether it is a COVID virus, or whether it is a huge giant blue whale, it is the same spirit soul situated in one part of the body, and it has so much power that it can have consciousness all over the body. And as soon as that spirit soul leaves this giant whale's body, it's not that the fins will still flap. No, the entire body loses life. Just like one sun can illuminate the entire universe, Lord Krishna is saying, one tiny spirit soul, the same size, the ant spirit soul and the spirit soul in the size of the blue whale, there is no difference in the size of the spirit soul. It is only a difference in the external material body. It's not that the spirit soul in the body of an ant is very small and the spirit soul in the body of a blue whale is giant. This is a very nice example given by Lord Krishna. Last shloka for discussion today. Kshetra kshetragyayorevam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature attain to the supreme goal. So this is the eyes of knowledge that Krishna is talking about. Jnana chakshusha. What eyes do we have? Let's go through some examples. Some of us could have eyes of wealth. कहीं भी हम लोग देखते हैं तो पैसा मिल रहा है क्या? Am I going to earn any money? Then only we'll go ahead. Some of us could have eyes of love. So wherever we see it with very caring, compassionate eyes, and we ask, oh, do you need some help? Can I help you in some way? Like that. Some of us may have eyes of sensitivity to the environment. I know people when they're walking on the street, when they see a plastic bag, then they say, oh, who put this plastic bag here? And so many people walk there, nobody thought any problem. So some people may have eyes of wealth, some people may have eyes of love, some people may have eyes of sensitivity to the environment. Some people may also have eyes eager for technology. They're always looking for, अरे ये phone में क्या है? ये phone का camera कैसा है? They're always asking these questions. So now I have a slide. Please go through this slide very attentively, and then you'll understand what I'm saying. Sham and Ram are two friends meeting each other after a gap of 1.5 years due to COVID lockdown. So I'm going to request somebody, can any one of you be Sham? Can you unmute and tell me that I am going to be Sham? I'm going to have dialogues on the screen and you can read it. Who wants to be Sham?
I can.
Okay, great. And who wants to be Ram? Somebody else?
Prabhuji, I can be Ram.
Okay, great. So Sham and Ram, be ready. There are going to be dialogues on the screen. So Sham should read Sham's dialogues and Ram should read Ram's dialogues. Okay, Sham.
My dear Ram, I have my car with me. Let us go for a long drive.
Actually, I have motion sickness, so I feel uncomfortable while traveling by a vehicle.
Oh, no issues. There is a swimming pool close by. Let us go for a swim.
Actually, I'm allergic to cold water, so I won't be able to join you.
Oh, I can understand. Don't worry. There is a nice restaurant that is opened up. Let us go for some nice hot food.
Actually, I'm not really hungry, so no interested in food.
Okay, now Sham and Ram should not speak. Somebody else, can you tell me what is happening here? What do you see here?
Hare Krishna
Yes,
Prabhuji, Sham wants to
Yes.
spend some time with his friend,
Yeah.
and she wants to catch up for the lost time due to the COVID. But
Yes.
Ram doesn't seem very enthusiastic for that.
Right. So now, Mataji, thank you for this answer. I really appreciate your thinking. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Did Sham mention anywhere in this whole slide that I want to spend time with you?
No?
No. He's saying, चलो कार में घूमने जाते हैं. He said, no, no, I am motion sickness. Okay, let's go for a swim. No, 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 allergic to cold. चलो ठंडी से तकलीफ है ना, हम लोग गरम गरम कुछ खाना खाते हैं. He said, no, no, I am not hungry. So basically, Sham, is he interested in a drive? Is he interested in a swimming pool? Is Sham interested in a restaurant?
Interested in company only.
Perfect.
Yeah, he wants to have
He's
talk.
he's basically reaching out, but कुछ तो बहाना चाहिए ना. And what about Ram? Is Ram able to understand that this person is trying to reach out? What about Ram?
Ram is disassociating.
Yeah, and Ram does not understand that actually it's not that he wants me to go on a drive. It's not about a swimming pool. It's not about food. Actually, all he wants is he wants to spend time with me. Is it not? So it has nothing to do with a car. It has nothing to do with a swimming pool. It has nothing to do with a restaurant food. It's all about one friend reaching out to another friend. But because Ram is not able to understand it, Ram is giving answers to that individual points. Oh, car, not possible. Oh, swimming pool, not possible. Hot food, but I am not hungry. So many times what happens is in a relationship, people are actually reaching out to us. And if we don't have the right eyes to see what is happening, then we will give answers in such a way that we are replying to those points, but we are not able to see the emotions behind those points. And that is what I call as the eyes of knowledge. The eyes of knowledge means after you go through this slide today, now you will remember in your own life, somebody was reaching out to me and he said, can we do this? And I gave a blunt answer. No, I'm not interested. And then that person said, okay, can we do this? I gave a blunt answer, not interested. Now I understand it had nothing to do with the words that he was speaking. Actually, there was a lot of a desire to reach out to me. Yes. And if we understand this, then we will become more sensitive in our communication. Sometimes with our family members. So sometimes, somebody close to us will say, chalo hum log, can we go for an evening walk? And you say, actually, you know what, I'm tired. But even that person is tired, and even that person does not go walking. But that person is basically saying, we never spent quality time together since a long, long time. So should we spend some quality time together? Actually, it is a call for quality time together. But we do not interpret it like that, and we say, no, my legs are paining, my neck is paining, my hands are paining, my headache is there, and this and that. And actually, we lose a chance to connect to a person. Similarly, actually, when we are looking at this world, if we have the eyes of wealth, you know, what is the name of the brother of Hiranyakashipu? Anybody remembers?
Hiranyaksha.
So you know what the word Hiranyaksha means? Hiranya means gold, and
Gold.
Aksha means eyes. So Hiranyaksha
Eyes.
means, yeah. So this person constantly he's just looking for gold, gold, gold. Everywhere he's looking for gold, and that's why he did so much mining of the gold that the earth fell into the ocean, Garbhodak ocean. So Hiranyaksha means usko keval sona dikhta hai, usko, you know, what is right, what is wrong, he cannot see. Yes. So people are Hiranyaksha, people are this Aksha, and people are that Aksha. But actually, very few people in this world are Jnana Aksha. Very few people are looking at different situations that are happening in their life through the eyes of knowledge. So that is what Krishna is saying, that actually when you want to really see the world, don't see the world with your spectacles. See the world through the knowledge of the Gita. And when we look at the world through the knowledge of the Gita, then Krishna is saying that is the time when you actually start seeing the world as it is. Because the knowledge of the Gita is coming from the creator of this world. It's not coming from an ordinary person. That is what Krishna is saying. And this is the eyes of knowledge, Jnana Chakshusha, which we are supposed to develop. So these are some few last points. This is from the purport. Srila Prabhupada is saying, the purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between the body, the owner of the body, and the super soul. Who's the owner of the body? The living entity, Atma. One should recognize the process of liberation as described in verses 8 through 12. These are the 20 items of knowledge that we discussed. And then one can go on to the supreme destination. Can somebody else read what is there on the screen?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, please.
A faithful person should at first have some good association to hear of God and thus gradually become enlightened. If one accepts a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit, and that becomes the stepping stone for further spiritual realization. A spiritual master, by various instructions, teaches his students to get free from the material concept of life. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free him from materialistic considerations.
So these are very nice points that Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. And I really like this point that when we learn to distinguish between matter and spirit, then that becomes a stepping stone for further spiritual realization. Somebody else can read this slide?
One can understand that this body is matter. It can be analyzed with its 24 elements. The body is gross manifestation, and the subtle manifestation is the mind and psychological effects. And the symptoms of life are the interaction of these features. But over and above this, there is the soul, and there is also the super soul. The soul and super soul are two. The material world is working by the conjunction of the soul and the 24 material elements.
Last slide for today. Somebody else can read?
Yes. One who can see the constitution of the whole material manifestation as this combination of the soul and the material elements, and can also see the situation of the supreme soul, becomes eligible for transfer to the spiritual world. These things are meant for contemplation and for realization, and one should have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of the spiritual master.
So he's saying that this is meant for contemplation. And when we contemplate, you know, what one of our attendees was saying, that it's difficult to see all this, but then slowly when we go through these classes, when we go through the recordings that have been shared with everyone, then slowly we contemplate, what is my life? What is happening in my life? What is happening in my life? How much of that is external and how much of that is internal? And how much am I able to see this life with the eyes of knowledge of the Gita? Or am I still evaluating everything with the eyes of wealth? जिसमें मेरा फायदा है मैं केवल वही करूंगा और जिसमें मेरा फायदा नहीं है वो नहीं करूंगा. Or am I really leading my life based on the knowledge of the Gita? These things are meant for contemplation and for realization. And one should have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of the spiritual master. So we are supposed to go deeper into this knowledge, especially shloka number 8 to 12, the 20 items of knowledge, amanitvam, adambitvam, they are very serious concepts for us, and that is the path of liberation. So we'll end here. Thank you very much. I'm grateful
I
to
have
all
a
of
question,
you.
Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, even I have a question. Yeah.
My question is, we understood that soul is the owner of the body. And in Sloka 33, we understood that this Atman, the soul, it is something nirgun and it doesn't assimilate with the activities, attributes of the body.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But if it is so, then how can our actions, our good actions, our bad actions, those are carried forward to the next birth? How it is carried forward? Who is the carrier?
The spirit soul, yes, the spirit soul has two kinds of bodies. One is the subtle body of the mind, and one is the gross body that we see.
Right.
The hands, the legs, and all that. Yeah?
No,
So what is
because
death?
I may be looking little silly and appear to be very foolish, but I am not clear on this. How
Right. So if you
soul
allow me
is,
to complete it, then there is a chance that you will understand.
please.
So there is a spirit soul, and there is the first covering on the spirit soul, which is composed of the ego. Ego means as soon as you separate yourself from God, then you have your own identity. You say, I am this, I am that. Anything, any concept of identity that is other than that, actually, I am a child of God. That is your real identity. Other than that, any identity is basically ego. On top of ego, there is another covering which is called intelligence. On top of intelligence, there is another covering which is called a covering of the mind. Mind means all the thoughts that we have, all the emotions we have, and all that. And then so all these three coverings, the ego, the intelligence, and the mind, they are sukshma. Sukshma means it's very difficult to touch them. It's almost invisible. Just like the air around us is invisible, but when we blow air on our hands, then we can feel the impact of the air on our hands. Yes. And then on top of this is the covering that you and me can see, like our gross body, the body that we can touch, the skin, the blood, the bones, and all that. That is the gross body. So what we call as death is basically the destruction only of the gross body. When we say that this person has died, what it means is the gross body has been destructed, but the mind is not destroyed. The intelligence is not destroyed and the ego is not destroyed. So when you get a next life, what happens is the impressions are there on the mind, and that mind is a carryover from the previous life. That's why sometimes when a child is born, even though he's a small child, sometimes he has a lot of attraction for Krishna. And you wonder, I have attended so many classes and this and that, but I never got so much attraction. How can this little child have so much attraction? Why? Because it is a carryover from his past life. So the mind is a carryover from the past life. The intelligence is a carryover from the past life, and the ego is carryover from the past life. But the gross body, the skin body, is destroyed. And that's why when we light fire, what is destroyed in the fire is the gross body. The mind is not destroyed in the fire. The spirit soul is not destroyed in the fire. And that's why what is, you mentioned, how does it get carried over to the next? Through the medium of the mind. Mind is like a godown of impressions. Mind is like a storehouse of impressions. So whatever we see in this lifetime, whatever we read in this lifetime, whatever we experience in this lifetime is stored in the godown of the mind. And that mind is not destroyed when we light fire to the body when somebody dies. And that mind carries those impressions to the next life. That is how some thoughts, some impressions, some habits, some behavior from the previous life is carried over to the next life. Of course, in the next life, there is education. So sometimes if the teacher in the next life is really very nice, then with the help of the education from the teacher in the next life, you are able to suppress the bad habits from the previous life. Otherwise, the bad habits from the previous life or the good habits from previous life will overpower and will always be there in the next life also. This is how it gets carried to the next life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mataji, you also had a question.
Yeah, Prabhuji, this is, I think it was 13.27. It was mentioned the dead matter and a living entity in it. So the dead matter means here our physical body?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Because
So
matter
it is
never has life. Matter never has life. Matter is
okay.
dead. But it's like a robot. You know, robot is dead, right? But as soon as you connect it to a battery, then it will start moving. So similarly, actually, this body is dead. But as soon as there is a spirit soul inside the body, then the body seems to move. The body seems to act and run and walk and talk and this and that. But as soon as the spirit soul goes, just like the battery is taken out of a toy, there is a moving toy, there is a laughing toy, there is a walking toy. And as soon as the battery is removed, then the whole toy collapses. Similarly, as soon as the spirit soul leaves the body, then the body collapses. So that body is dead matter and the spirit soul is the living being, living force within the dead body.
Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah. Very nice answer. Very good explanation. Thanks
Okay,
so
thank
much.
you. Hare Krishna. We'll meet next Thursday with,
Hare
starting
Krishna.
from chapter 30. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one
Yeah.
request. Prabhuji, whenever the temple opens, can you put a message in the group, Prabhuji?
Sure. I'll do that.
Hare
My
Krishna.
responsibility.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.